the dignitaries are here. We request everyone to keep their mobile phones on silent mode, please. very good evening and a very warm welcome to each one of you to the launch of the two books, The Bench, The Bar and the Bizarre, and The Lawful and the Awful. We are deeply privileged this evening to have on the dais the Honorable Chief Justice of India, Honorable Mr. Justice Suryakant, our chief guest for the evening, the Honorable Union Minister for Home and Cooperation, respected Shri Amit Bhai Shah, our guest of honor for today, the learned Attorney General for India, Shri R. Venkataramani ji, and our host and author, the learned Solicitor General of India, Shri Tushar Mehta. I extend a warm welcome also to the honorable judges, the senior members of the bar, the distinguished invitees from public life, members of the press, and the family and friends of the author. To begin the function, may I now request the dignitaries on the dais to kindly proceed for the lighting of the lamp ceremony. Now, to felicitate the Honorable Chief Justice of India, may I now request Ms. Nasadia Singh and Ms. Disha Thakkar to welcome the Honorable the Chief Justice of India by presenting a sapling and a bouquet as a token of our respect. May I now request Ms. Astha Singh and Ms. Medha Pushkarna to present the sampling and the bouquet to the Honorable Home Minister of India as a token of our respect. And may I now request Ms. Millie Joy Bakshi and Ms. Rajeshwari Shankar to present the sampling and the bouquet to the learned Attorney General for India as a token of our respect. May I now request Shri Kapish Mehra of Rupa Publications to welcome the guests.
Thank you, Aman. First of all, a very good evening to the Honorable Chief Justice of India, the Honorable Home Minister of India, Tushar Mehta ji, who's not the designation he carries, but the author of today's function, the Attorney General of India, various judges from different courts, lawyers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I have been asked to give a publisher's address, which is essentially focused on talking about the book and talking about the journey of the book and talking generally about the experiences of the publisher. But आज का ऐसा माहौल है जहाँ पर नॉर्मली बुक रिलीज फंक्शन पर पब्लिशर बहुत खुश होता है. We are very happy, it's a big day, etc. It's a culmination of a journey. But today, I have mixed feelings. Mixed feelings सिर्फ इसलिए because I have spent a year and a half interacting with Sir. And during the process of publishing, as a lot of people who are associated with the world of law would understand, the publisher and their author become as close as a very good client and the lawyer. And it has been such a wonderful journey interacting with this author that I feel that it is good that the book has been published, but I feel I wish ek aur hoti. So that is the first and the opening thing I want to tell my dear author today, that abhi aur bhi aage jana hai. With that having out of the way, I have to confess, it has been a wonderful journey working with Sir. Apart from the fact that he is as diligent and as thoughtful as he is, interacting with his household is even better, because you get to interact with the best, choicest and the best of coffees and the best of Gujarati dishes. So whether I am invited or not, again, for a further book that he wishes to write, I will make myself comfortable, sir. On a slightly more serious note, Sir has dedicated both these books to his late mother. And while we were discussing the various dates for the book release function, we finalized on 10th of May for no particular reason. But it just so happened that it fit into the calendar of everybody. And as they say, some blessings are divine and some days are prophetic. So, sir, there couldn't be a better day than today, considering it is Mother's Day. So those blessings that you mentioned in the foreword of the book in the introduction is still with you. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes a lot of courage to laugh at your own self, laugh at the pond in which you are already swimming. And you can only do that when you are confident that you are doing it with the purity of intent and you have nothing but just the desire to spread humor. Normally, जब ऐसी किताबें एक सोलिसिटर जनरल लिखते हैं तो आम तौर पर ये माना जाता है कि बहुत बोरिंग होगी, पढ़ी नहीं जाएगी, एक्सेट्रा, क्योंकि लीगल होगी जनरल जनता के लिए. बट जब तुषार जी ने ये बात रखी और ये किताब के बारे में चर्चा की तो मैं असमंजस में रह गया. इसलिए क्योंकि ये पहली बारी मैंने सुना था कि इस दर्जे का व्यक्ति इस प्रकार की ह्यूमर को एक्सेप्ट करके सामने लाने के लिए तैयार है. सो सर, मेनी कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस टू एक्चुअली बी एबल टू डू दैट. वेरी फ्यू पीपल इन लाइफ आर एबल टू डू दैट. सो मेनी कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस. सर, जैसे शुरुआत में मैंने आपको बोला, जर्नी अभी बाकी है. Volume 1 and Volume 2 is not the end of the writing career. While I am sure you have a busy day ahead and days ahead, I hope as publishers that you continue to give us the opportunity, the privilege, and the good fortune of publishing you and working with you. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, before I am subjected to a sermon which is presided over by somebody else, I would like to take your leave and thank you for joining us today for this auspicious occasion and this beautiful moment. Thank you, sir.
May I now request the dignitaries on the dais to unveil the two books, The Bench, The Bar, and The Bizarre, The Unfamiliar, The Curious, and The Extraordinary in Law, and the second book, The Lawful and the Awful, Quirky Tales from the World of Law. May I now request Shri Tushar Mehta, the author of the two books, to welcome our valued guests and briefly introduce the two books.
Namaskar. Good evening to all of you. Honorable Chief Justice of India, my Lord Justice Suryakant, our respected Amit Bhai Shah, the Honorable Union Minister for Home and Cooperation, our Chief Guest of the function, Shri R. Venkatramaniji, the Learned Attorney General for India, the Honorable Judges of the Supreme Court, my Lord Justice Ramanna, the Honorable former Chief Justice of India, the Honorable judges who have come from Bhutan, the Honorable Chief Justices, judges, and eminent dignitaries, I welcome you all. Friends, I must thank first of all of you, because you were not supposed to be here. You have chosen to be here on a Sunday evening to demarcate time for someone for a book release function really creates an obligation. I am indebted for choosing this occasion to be with me in this momentous occasion in my life. Thank you so much. First of all, I confess that this is rather a bizarre appearance. I have been appearing before the honorable judges very frequently since last 35 years. But this appearance today is a little unusual, a little extraordinary, and a little bizarre for the simple reason that all lawyers are quite at home when they are discussing what is lawful. And we are also reasonably familiar with what is awful sometimes in some of the situations which we face as lawyers. But frankly, today is the occasion where it is really a merging line between the lawful and the awful, and nobody, till they read the book, will be able to decide what is lawful and what is awful, or both. There is a particular peculiarity in being an advocate and publishing books on the lighter side of law. It feels rather like a surgeon writing humorously about his own operation theatre. But I have deliberately, consciously, and purposefully chosen this subject, which is not a subject of just anecdotes or legal jokes or any other humor book which is available in the market. I have chosen a different genre. But I must clarify at the outset what these books are not. They are not a treatise. They are not a critic of any particular subject of law, and I have not even pretended to be scholarly while writing this book, The Infection, which infects almost everyone on this side of the bar. What is this? What these two books are? It's quite simple. They are a collection of true stories. Nothing is imaginary or fictional. They are a collection of true stories. Since I am practicing in India and intend to do so for quite a number of years hereafter, I have chosen not to include any instance of Indian court, Indian judge, or Indian judgment. I have just gathered some incidents which would be very, very interesting for all of us to learn from across the law, from across the jurisdictions. Various jurisdictions, various subjects, various proponents, and various way of dealing with those subjects. There is a second reason why I chose this. It is quite well known that I am not a very great fan of introducing foreign jurisdiction while interpreting Indian constitution. And therefore, there might be some impression which might be running in the minds of many that because I read only Indian law, I am perhaps avoiding the other jurisdictions. This book would suggest, and once you go through it, would show to you that I have read other jurisdictions, and precisely for that reason, I am opposed to any such idea being introduced in our jurisprudence. Friends, I don't wish to take much time. I am indeed grateful for all these dignitaries. It would be difficult to get their time if I were to seek their appointments, but they have blessed me by being here. I am especially grateful to, of course, the Honorable Home Minister, despite his pressing schedule, all of us know, and the Honorable Chief Justice of India, again, despite pressing schedule, has consented to my request. I must say one thing, that the Honorable Home Minister happens to be the Home Minister today, but my first books would have been unveiled by Shri Amit Bhai Shah, whether he would have been a Home Minister or anyone else. One more thing, I am personally grateful to Sonal Babi, wife of Amit Bhai Shah, his sister and his daughter-in-law, who is like my daughter-in-law. They've really blessed me by being present and being really the family. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta, for introducing the two books. May I now request and take this opportunity to request Shri Amit Bhai Shah, the Honorable Home Minister of India and Honorable Minister of Cooperation, and our valued chief guest for the evening, to address the gathering.
आज के कार्यक्रम में मेरे साथ मंच पर उपस्थित चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया जस्टिस सूर्यकांत जी, भारत सरकार के अटॉर्नी जनरल श्री आर वेंकटरमणी जी, मेरे मित्र और भारत सरकार के सॉलिसिटर जनरल श्री तुषार मेहता जी, और आज इस सभागार में विधि के क्षेत्र से जुड़े हुए सभी हुज हु जो यहाँ पर उपस्थित है, वो सभी को मैं तुषार मेहता की ओर से स्वागत भी करता हूं और अभिनंदन और धन्यवाद भी देना चाहता हूं। मुझे किसी ने उचित ही सलाह सुबह दिया कार्यक्रम के बारे में जानकर कि आपके वक्तव्य को तुषार मेहता के एक पुराने दोस्त के नाते नहीं देखा जाएगा, आपके वक्तव्य को एक क्रिटिक सिटीजन के ओपिनियन के बारे में भी नहीं देखा जाएगा, आपके वक्तव्य को न्यायपालिका और सरकार के रिश्तों के दृष्टि से ही देखा जाएगा। अब मैंने उनको पूछा कि आप मुझे चेताना चाहते हो या मेरे भाषण की मर्यादा तय करना चाहते हो, या आप एक प्रकार से किसी के कहने पर फोन कर रहे हो। तो वो सज्जन ने मुझे कहा कि मैं आप पर ही छोड़ देता हूं अनुमान करने का। तो ढेर सारे मीडिया के लोग हैं, मैं शुरुआत में ही स्पष्टता कर देता हूं कि यहां से कुछ कंट्रोवर्शियल किसी को मिलने वाला नहीं है। मेरे पास बहुत सारे फोरम है निर्भीकता से अपनी बात रखने का, मेरे पास बहुत सारे फोरम है क्रिटिक तरीके से अपनी बात रखने का। मैं आज श्री तुषार मेहता के इस महत्वपूर्ण प्रसंग को कंट्रोवर्सी में डालना नहीं चाहता हूं। मित्रों, तुषार जी भारत के सॉलिसिटर जनरल हैं, एक बहुत अच्छे विधि को जानने वाले अधिवक्ता हैं, मगर तुषार मेहता मेरे दोस्त भी हैं। मैं उनको लगभग 30 साल से जानता हूं। उनकी साहित्य के प्रति उनकी रुचि सिर्फ ये पुस्तकों तक सीमित नहीं है। जिसका तुषार मेहता से दोस्ती होगा उसको मालूम होगा, आपको ढेर सारे उर्दू शेर व शायरी और गजल वो धड़ल्ले से आपको भेज सकते हैं। और मैं इस बात की गारंटी देता हूं, आप एसएमएस खोलकर उनका देख लेना, व्हाट्सएप खोलकर देख लेना, वो प्रासंगिक ही होंगे। तो उनके पास साहित्य का अभ्यास भी है, रुचि भी है, और आज एक प्रकार से साहित्य सृजन में वो शुरुआत करने जा रहे हैं। तुषार भाई को मेरी बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं हैं। एक बात के साथ मैं डिफर करता हूं। तुषार भाई ने कहा कि मैं कोर्ट में प्रैक्टिस करता हूं और ये लिख रहा हूं। तुषार भाई, ये साहस आपका आधा अधूरा है। ये वाक्य तब उचित था तब भारतीय कोर्टों पर आप ये टिप्पणी करते जो आपने टाला है। अब मेरी टिप्पणी कोर्ट पर है या तुषार मेहता पर, वो मैं आप लोगों पर छोड़ देता हूं। मित्रों, आज विधि के क्षेत्र से जुड़े हुए बहुत सारे लोग यहां पर उपस्थित हैं। एक प्रकार से हमारे संविधान की 76 साल की यात्रा में हमने ये तो अचीव कर लिया है कि हमारे लोकतंत्र की जड़ें हमने पाताल तक गहरी पहुंचाई। हमारी मल्टी पार्टी डेमोक्रेटिक पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम को हमने निश्चित रूप से मजबूत किया है, और 1947 से लेकर आज तक इस देश में पार्लियामेंट के माध्यम से और विधानसभाओं के माध्यम से जितने भी परिवर्तन हुए, खून का एक कतरा बहाए बगैर इसको स्वीकार कर लिया गया और बहुत अच्छे तरीके से हमने परिवर्तन किए हैं। यही बताता है कि हमारे लोकतंत्र की जड़ें बहुत गहरी गई हैं, और इसमें हमारे संविधान और हमारी न्यायपालिका का बहुत बड़ा योगदान है। पूरे देश की जनता में एक प्रकार से विश्वास है कि मुझे अन्याय होगा तो संविधान जाग रहा है, मेरे अधिकारों पर आघात होगा तो न्याय के द्वार खुले हैं, और कहीं पर भी कमजोर व्यक्ति की या कमजोर विचार की आवाज को दबाया जाएगा तो न्यायालय में आवाज जरूर सुनी जाएगी। और ये तीनों मूल चीजों पर ही हमारा लोकतंत्र मजबूत हुआ है। और बाय एंड लार्ज देखें तो न्याय आम आदमी की जो आशा है, समाज का संतुलन है, और राष्ट्र के चरित्र का एक प्रकार से बहुत महत्वपूर्ण प्रमाण भी है। इसका विश्वास टिकाने में हमें सोसाइटी के नाते बहुत बड़ी सफलता प्राप्त की है। मैं इतना जरूर कहना चाहता हूं कि मैं बाय एंड लार्ज शब्द का प्रयोग किया हूं। हम सबकी जिम्मेदारी है कि इसमें भी जो छोटे 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 लूपहोल्स होंगे उसको न्यायपालिका और कार्यपालिका दोनों ने मिलकर सुधारने भी होंगे, और इसको प्लग करने की व्यवस्था कॉन्क्रीट टाइम बाउंड रोड मैप के साथ हम लेकर आगे आना पड़ेगा। मैं तुषार भाई के 2 पुस्तकों के बारे में कुछ कहना चाहता हूं। मैंने बहुत डिटेल में दोनों पुस्तक पढ़े नहीं है, हालांकि तुषार भाई ने मुझे 25 दिन पहले पुस्तक दे दिए थे, पढ़ना भी चाहिए था, मगर मैं बंगाल और बाकी सारे राज्यों में बिजी था, इसलिए मैं प्रामाणिकता से कहता हूं कि मैं पुस्तक पढ़ नहीं पाया हूं। मेरी टिप्पणी मेरी टीम ने बनाई हुई नोट के आधारित है। इन्होंने इस पुस्तक में ढेर सारी चीजों को उजागर किया है, और एक प्रकार से हम किसी भी व्यवस्था में बैठते हैं तब हम अपने आप के सेंट्रिक सोच धीरे 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 डेवलप कर देते हैं, और ये मानव स्वभाव है, इसमें कोई बड़ा कोई नेगेटिव चीज भी नहीं है। परंतु जब इस प्रकार की न्यूट्रल मीमांसा सामने आती है तो हमें अपने बारे में, अपने इंस्टीट्यूशन के बारे में और कुल मिलाकर क्षेत्र के बारे में मीमांसा कर कर पुनः विचार करने का एक बहुत बड़ा अवसर प्राप्त होता है। कैसे कभी कोर्ट में कविता की गूंज सुनाई देती है, तो कभी काफी सारे जजों के मौलिक अंदाज को भी तुषार मेहता ने आगे बढ़ाया है। एक घटना जब मैंने नोट में पढ़ी तो मैंने खुद पढ़ने का भी आग्रह रखा कि एक देश में दो जुड़वा बहनों ने वकील और न्यायाधीश बनकर एक दूसरे की भूमिका के साथ किस तरह से खिलवाड़ किया था, वो भी बहुत अच्छे तरीके से डाला हुआ है। और कभी एक जज ने शिकार करते करते निर्णय कर दिया, वो भी डाला है। ये सारी चीजें एक प्रकार से हम सभी को सोचने के लिए भी एक प्रकार से मजबूर करती है, और एक प्रकार से साहित्य दृष्टि से कहे तो बहुत सारा कोर्ट के गंभीर वातावरण से हमें बाहर भी निकालती है। द बेंच, द बार एंड द बिजार, ये किताब एक जिज्ञासु व्यक्ति की तरह दिखाई पड़ती है। इसमें एआई और आधुनिक तकनीकों के बारे में न्यायपालिका के सामने फ्यूचर में किस प्रकार की चुनौतियां आने वाली है, वो कॉन्क्रीट उदाहरण के साथ समझाने का प्रयास किया गया है। इसमें तकनीक और न्याय का तालमेल तो करना चाहिए, परंतु इसके बारे में जो चेतावनियां हैं वो भी हमें दिखाई दी। मुझे आनंद होता कि तुषार भाई ऐसी कोई चेतावनी लॉ क्लर्क्स के लिए भी दे देते तो बहुत अच्छा होता, क्योंकि न्याय का काम हमेशा ओपन कोर्ट में दो एडवोकेट्स की बहस सुनकर अपने अनुभव के आधार पर, अपने ज्ञान के आधार पर निर्णय करने का काम मैं मानता हूं न्याय का होता है। परंतु तकनीक जब आएगी तब इसका उपयोग भी होगा, और उपयोग होगा तो इसके हमें चेताने वाले, सोसाइटी के नाते चेताने वाले परिणाम क्या होंगे, ये भी बहुत अच्छे तरीके से इसके अंदर हमारे सामने रखा है। मित्रों, एक प्रकार से हमारे लोकतंत्र की सुंदरता ये है कि संस्थाओं ने एक दूसरे का विरोध करने के लिए नहीं, परंतु एक दूसरे को संतुलित करने के लिए संविधान ने बनाया है। इस स्पिरिट को हमें सच अर्थ में समझना पड़ेगा। कार्यपालिका निर्णय लेती है, न्यायपालिका उसका संवैधानिक समीक्षा करता है, और हमारे संविधान निर्माताओं ने संवाद, मर्यादा और संतुलन तीनों को बनाए रखने के लिए बहुत अच्छे तरीके से एक स्पिरिट के साथ संविधान को लिखा है। और मैं पीछे मुड़कर जब देखता हूं तो 76 साल में शायद ही किसी देश ने ये सभी मर्यादाओं को संभालते हुए देश को आगे बढ़ाया होगा। हम सबके लिए बहुत हर्ष का विषय है कि हमारे यहाँ बाय एंड लार्ज ये सारी मर्यादाएं बनी रही और इसको परंपराओं से हमने आगे भी बढ़ाया है। लोकतंत्र की मजबूती टकराव से नहीं है, बल्कि संस्थागत संतुलन और पारस्परिक मर्यादाओं से ही होती है। और जब मैं पारस्परिक मर्यादा की बात करता हूं, तब इसकी स्पिरिट के रूप में हमारे संविधान ने स्वीकृति कई जगह पे दी है। वो हम सब ने देखा भी है, आगे पर देखना भी चाहिए। और जो एक अच्छी प्रैक्टिस 75 साल में बनी है कार्यपालिका और न्यायपालिका के बीच में संतुलन की, उसको और दृढ़, सुदृढ़ और आगे बढ़ाने के लिए हम सब ने साथ में काम भी करना चाहिए। आज मैं यहां पर विधि के क्षेत्र पर कोई टिप्पणी करने नहीं आया हूं। मैंने हालांकि एक विषय तय किया है कि मैं जरूर नजदीक के भविष्य में कोई ना कोई फोरम में जरूर मेरे विचार बेबाकी से रखूंगा, ये मैं आज बता देता हूं। मगर आज मैं तुषार भाई के पुस्तकों का विमोचन करने के लिए आया हूं। तुषार भाई का और मेरा परिचय एक प्रकार से 30 साल पुराना है और बहुत अच्छी मित्रता भी है। और तुषार भाई एक वरिष्ठ विधि अधिवक्ता है, मगर लेखक और जिज्ञासु विद्यार्थी के रूप में इन्होंने इन पुस्तकों के माध्यम से अपने आप को प्रस्तुत किया है। मैं तुषार भाई को जानता हूं कि कानून की गंभीरता और मर्यादा दोनों को बनाए रखते हुए उन्होंने कुल मिलाकर अदालती प्रक्रियाओं में छिपे जीवन, हास्य, व्यंग और मानवीय स्वभाव, इस सभी की बहुत सुंदर अभिव्यक्ति बारीकी के साथ किया है। वैसे तो आगे कहा गया है, मगर मैं फिर से तुषार भाई को अभिनंदन देना चाहता हूं कि उन्होंने पुस्तक अपनी मां को समर्पित किया है। चूंकि तुषार भाई के साथ मेरा पुराना रिश्ता है, मैं माता जी को मिला भी हूं और बहुत अच्छे से मिला हूं, जानता भी था। परंतु आज मदर्स डे के दिन इन्होंने ये पुस्तक का विमोचन रखा है, वो भी बड़ा सूचक और बहुत अच्छा प्रसंग है। हालांकि हमारे भारत में तो हर दिन मदर्स डे ही होता है। मेरे जैसे कई लोग होंगे जो माँ के चरण छुए बगैर घर के बाहर कभी नहीं निकले, और आज माँ नहीं रही तो इसके सामने एक छोटा सा दिया जलाकर कृतज्ञता का भाव व्यक्त कर कर ही घर के बाहर निकलते हैं। तो हमारे लिए तो हर दिन एक प्रकार से मदर्स डे ही होता है। मित्रों, मैं आज इतना ही कहना चाहता हूं कि तुषार भाई ने साहित्य के क्षेत्र में ऑर्गेनाइज तरीके से, वैसे काफी कुछ करते रहते हैं वो, परंतु ऑर्गेनाइज तरीके से पहली बार कदम रखा है। मैं चाहूंगा कि तुषार भाई का जीवन का बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा अदालतों में ही जाता है। अदालत के बाहर निकलकर भी वो साहित्य सृजन में आगे बढ़े हैं। उनकी रुचि भी है, क्षमता भी है, और एक सफल साहित्यकार के रूप में भी अंत में उनको स्वीकृति मिले, यही मैं तुषार भाई को यहाँ अपील करना चाहूँगा। जैसा मैंने कहा कि विधि क्षेत्र के लिए मेरे जो विचार है, मैं जरूर कोई एक फोरम में रखूंगा भी और बेबाकी के साथ रखूंगा। आज मैं तुषार भाई को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं देकर मेरी बात को समाप्त करता हूं। वंदे मातरम।
I thank the Honorable Home Minister for his illuminating remarks. May I now request the learned Attorney General for India to address this august gathering.
Honorable the Chief Justice of India, Honorable Home Minister, and my very dear brother, Solicitor General Tushar Bhai. Let me welcome all the dignitaries, the who is who of the Indian judiciary here, and the legal fraternity from all over the country and from Bhutan. I'm going to call him that fondly throughout my speech as Tushar Bhai. Today, I'm also privileged, if I'm permitted to use that expression, to be one among the exalted 3-1 seated on the dais, the Honorable Chief Justice and the respected Home Minister. who are far more suited than me to talk about the books. Both of them, of course, Honorable Home Minister added a great lecture today in the evening, and the Chief Justice will add a further lecture today's occasion beyond my little capacity. I thought I'll come without a prepared speech and talk extempore, but then I would have done little service to the books if I would have done that. So I have a little prepared speech, but before I do that, I wanted to show to Tushar Bhai that I have read your books with all the flags which show what I'm proposing to read. But before I do that, Tushar Bhai sent me the books to me a week ago. I began reading them not only to be prepared enough to speak about them, but also out of sheer interest and a desire to be enlightened. I am surely enlightened. And beyond that, I spent roughly 7 hours reading these books, mostly in the early morning hours and late night hours. I wondered how many year and a half ago he spent all his early morning hours and late night hours to prepare this book. My word of knowing and understanding the subtle and the less studied dimensions of doing justice, the noble and the not so noble, the weird and the lesser facets of human nature revealed in their profane moments, and the utmost stretches of lawyering stands altered. I wonder how studiously and courageously Tushar Bhai plunged into these facets, which are deeply relevant for understanding the hidden dimensions of doing justice, and chronicled carefully chosen stories of law and justice to share with us, which peeps into human nature in both its exalted and ridiculous manifestations. When he told me that the books were of different genre and were not meant to be heavily intellectual or academic, I nodded my head with reservations, knowing fully well Tushar Bhai's intellectual depth and forensic capacities, which he does not flaunt for show. After reading the books, I'm going to file a counter affidavit today, with the permission of the Honorable the Chief Justice, along with my preliminary objections and a book-wise reply. I pray that my counter affidavit be allowed with heavy costs, which Tushar Bhai can certainly afford to pay. I wish to say that the titles of the books are deceptive. They are not mere chronicles and stories of lesser importance or passing relevance. They are premised on his long experience at the bar and his keen insights into how the justice system works between the bar and the bench. They are not mere stories without jurisprudential connection, though narrated as stories. In the conventional style of affidavits, I say and submit that every story in both books is couched in respectful but revealing simple prose, depicting courtrooms, dramatic personae, and happenings as instances of justice, misdelivery, or judicial adventure. The words awful and bizarre, though part of the Oxford and Cambridge dictionaries and conveying an interesting range of meanings, have been used not in the literal sense, but in the legal sense, as G.P. Singh in his book on interpretations would say. The books invite us to ponder how human nature and its invisible callings, promptings, and appeals impact the business of doing justice. My counter affidavit says that the books belong to a different intellectual level, and I request the Honorable Chief Justice to endorse my counter and permit me to say that we must always be ready to listen to voices and stories that keep us on our toes and minds open for critique of what we may fail to do and what we should be careful about in the holy pursuit of justice. If I have the permission to proceed further in terms of my counter, I wish to say that every chapter heading in both the books hides more than what it intends to share. The witty exteriors of the stories do not end with wit, satire, or humor. They are laced with simple and straightforward intervening comments. Tushar Bhai rightly believes that plain speaking is the best art, not only of skillful advocacy, but also of ethics. The book the bench, the bar, and the bizarre are 7 chapters. I read all the chapter headings. The divinity virus, and its subheading is bullies on the bench. Then next, the tiny tyrant, mobile phone, social media, and the judiciary. Third, judicial rebels, disagreeing in style. Fourth, law beyond the living, demons, devils, ghosts, and God in court. Fifth, artificial intelligence, legally embarrassed, hallucinations, fake citations, and perils of robo-research. Next, in black and white, gowns, vans, and the discipline of decorum. And next, finally, on record but off balance, drinks, drugs, and drowsiness in the courtroom. That is the 7 chapters in the first book. As I try to discover the connection between their contents, I find that the first and the third have an intrinsic connection. The second and the fourth deal with the modern technology, mobile, artificial intelligence, and the unholy world of social media, all of which have deeply affected our behavioral patterns and interpersonal communications. Instead of writing in the form of high, abstract academic discussion, he has chosen a very simple and effective way of conveying the need for our constant engagement in freeing ourselves from the perils of the technology-driven mind. I affirm that my conversation this evening are not the product of ChatGPT, but of my own little intelligent machine. Similarly, the book Lawful and Awful has 8 chapters. 1, Bench Without Borders, it is justice beyond jurisdiction. 2, weird tales of weirder judges, eccentricities on the bench. 3, the British art of courtroom wit, language, power, and polite hostility. 4, freedom of expression of judges, some playful precedents. And next, the court of one, the inimitable Justice Scalia. Next, the anatomy of a rotten judge, the unbearable Justice Macrenals. Next, legal reasoning with purple seasoning, judicial jargon, overcooked. Finally, all is well that begins well, the art of opening a judgment, wonderfully conceived design. Chapters 1 to 3 are delectable anecdotes of what can be in store for judges when weird litigants with fanciful or bizarre claims seek the court's scarce resources of time and adjudicatory tools. These anecdotes not only tell us about litigants who may have taken leave of their senses, but also about intelligent judges and their courtroom genius. The cases cited in Chapter 1, Justice Beyond Jurisdiction, are not only hilarious, but also compel us to imagine the depths to which virtually insane minds can demand judicial time. So too does the next chapter, which deals with the eccentricities of eccentric judges. Are these tales only good for evening laughter or canteen conversations? I think not. They remind us and alert us to where our justice system in the choice of judges and in accountability can fail. It is not surprising that Tushar Bai has chosen to write at length about Antonin Scalia and has devoted many pages to gathering Justice Scalia's refreshing, satirical, and forthright defense. The impulses being injected today and the scholarly persuasions pressed into service in many jurisdictions, including India, urging courts to perform the role of legislature increasing. They wear lofty labels of progressive and liberal thought. They demand from courts many gifts of jurisprudence under the banner of transformative constitutionalism. I do not enter these debates here today, but the debates must be serious, neutral, and conscious of what may unfold with the erosion of the democratic sphere. The chapter on Justice Scalia may sound hagiographic or conservative to some, but to my mind, it is deeply instructive. The roads ahead in the judicial management of social affairs will have to be trodden carefully. Again, whether our jurisprudence can remain completely Swadeshi or not is itself a lively debate. I keep my mouth powder dry for some other day. Book launches are solemn events. They mark the real day of delivery for eager minds waiting to build bridges between their thoughts and the community. They mark a day of achievement and fulfillment. It is also a day of invitation for society to know and be enriched by the writer's world of knowledge. Every writer, whether small or renowned, stands like a mother wishing to look upon the child of creation with fondness and affection. And it has to be so. Much like every time a judgment is read in court, though judges may claim detachment, they remain attached to the contribution they have made to law and justice. So it is that a writer assumes a new avatar after begetting worthy books. My dear brother Tushar Bhai has joined the illustrious club of renowned writers in the field of law. He has hearkened to the possibility of converting base metals into gold, mere stories into morals and norms, much like Zen books, the Jataka tales, or the narrations of King Vikramaditya. Let me first congratulate his worthy spouse, who must have seen him spending late night hours pondering and searching earnestly and lovingly reminding him of the need for the next day's work and the much needed rest he deserves. I'm sure she must have also been consulted on his style and prose so that domestic peace remained enhanced. Many fruits can be consumed after removing their peels, but a few can be eaten as they are. Grapes belong to this class. The stories gathered in these books are like grapes, the outer and the inner layers together containing juicy reflections and comments. We are given a wonderful vineyard to slowly wander through and the grapes to irresistibly consume. My counter affidavit having done its job, I share my deepest appreciation to Tushar Bhai's bold and imaginative contribution to legal literature. Though the books are largely about American judges and lawyers, with some reference to Europe, they deserve to travel abroad and occupy prestigious libraries, not only in our country, across the world, and everywhere as a testimony to the creative thinking and writing skills of the finest lawyers of our country. I'm sure Tushar Bhai will soon be in demand around the globe to speak about serious matters through light conversations. I once again congratulate him for the wonderful work he has placed unto our hands. But I'll conclude, let me conclude with these poetic words. Intellectually awful, jurisprudentially lawful, meanings given awful, lessons and morals lawful, stories collected awful, the intent suggested lawful, the permeating ideas awful, the pen which wrote is lawful. The time spent must have been awful to gather people all lawful. Tusharji's intellect history will say is awful. This book tells us what it means to be lawful. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the learned Attorney General for India for his words of wisdom and his comments on the book. May I now request the Honorable the Chief Justice of India to deliver his presidential address.
Shri Amit Bhai Shah, Honorable Union Minister for Home and Cooperation, my esteemed colleagues from the Supreme Court of India, Shri R. Venkatramani, Learned Attorney General for India, Shri Arjun Ram Meghwalji, Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Law and Justice, Justice Ramanna, Honorable former Chief Justice of India, and galaxy of my senior former colleagues from the Supreme Court of India, distinguished Chief Justices from various high courts who are present on this occasion, distinguished judges from the high courts of, I could see some of the high courts, Delhi, Gujarat, Punjab and Haryana, and Bombay, and maybe that other high courts judges are also here. We also have our special guests, Honorable Judges of the Royal Court of Bhutan and other delegates from Bhutan, Shri Tushar Mehta, the hero of the day and learned Solicitor General of India, former Law Minister, learned Advocate Generals of various states, Additional Solicitor Generals, and other law officers of the union and state governments, very eminent senior advocates in hundreds who are present on this occasion, members of the legal fraternity, very distinguished vice chancellors and other academia, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen. When Tushar Bhai invited me for this event and hinted the possible content of the two books, I was simply wondering as to what would happen if the world of law takes a vacation to a comedy club. The learned solicitor has the answer with his literary double act, two books, The Lawful and the Awful, and second, The Bench, the Bar, and the Bizarre. Reading these two books back to back is like binging a courtroom drama that accidentally wandered into a stand-up special. As I flipped through the pages of these two books, I found myself struck by a question over and over again. How on earth did Tushar Bhai find the time to pen these charming tomes in the first place? As the Solicitor General of India, I see him spending his mornings in court number 1. His afternoons are probably divided in other courtrooms and government work. And his evening, I'm using a guardian language, in the evening, I hope he spends some time in reading thousands of pages of briefs also. And yet, we are all here to launch not one but two books. So I try to solve this mystery. I have two running theories. Either Tushar Bhai has successfully petitioned the Almighty for a 25th hour in the day and kept that order strictly for himself. Or probably he has discovered that the best time for comedic writing is when he is sitting in court number 1 and he knows the benches will keep on reading and reading the brief and he has enough time to pen down his memories. Believe me, my money is on the later. Who could have guessed that dusty case files, legal jargon, and solemn judicial proceedings could turn into fodder for hilarity? Yet, here we are, grinning from ear to ear, as if we have just stumbled across a Supreme Court ruling authored by Mark Twain. Learned Solicitor General has done what so few dare to attempt. He has entered the hallowed halls of the legal world armed with nothing but sharp quips and a keen eye. And he has emerged victorious, carrying a treasure trove of anecdotes that will make even the most stoic jurist crack a smile, and that too a big smile. Through hilarious tales, piercing observations, and a comic lens that never misses its mark, these books invite readers to explore legal dilemmas with chuckles instead of headaches. Reading about these comical episodes, I was reminded of a few priceless stories from our own neck of the woods. Had Tushar Bhai written third book, and that too on Indian instances, which Honorable Home Minister also reminded, and he himself put a caveat that why he did not write. But his own predecessor, C.K. Daftari Sahab and Fali Nariman were arguing an important company case before Bombay High Court. Our colleagues from Bombay are also sitting here. When Daftari Sahab rose to argue, he muttered, "My learned friend." He then again cleared his throat and said, "My learned friend." The judge advised, "Mr. Daftari, why don't you take a seat and have a sip of water?" Daftari Sahab seized the exact opening he was waiting for and remarked, No, my lord, it's not my throat. It is the argument of my learned friend. I simply cannot swallow them." I recollect another instance when Mr. Daftari was trying hard to sell a legal proposition to Justice Hidayatullah after he was elevated to Supreme Court. Justice Hidayatullah explained, "Mr. Daftari, I have taken a contradictory view when I was Chief Justice of the Madhya Pradesh High Court." Mr. Daftari very quickly replied, He said, "My lord, now is your chance to repent." All high courts will have wonderful instances of judges cracking jokes, wit inside the court, outside the court, and of course, there are so many instances in north, south, northeast, wherever parts of the country you would like to examine. And all of you are aware of when Justice Kuldeep Singh, in our typical Punjabi style, he asked Mr. Ramaswamy, learned Attorney General, "Do you think we are fools?" And Ramaswamy, Mr. Sibal and all of them are here, they will recollect. He very characteristically replied, "My lord, you have put me in a very difficult situation. If I agree, I am in contempt. If I disagree, I commit perjury." Honorable Home Minister rightly pointed out, तुषार भाई is very fond of शेर शायरी. इनके व्हाट्सएप पे या कभी दूसरे उस पर जब भी देखेंगे तो सिर्फ शेर और शायरी ही आपको सुनने को मिलती है. तो हमारे यहाँ 95-96 में जब हाई कोर्ट में ट्रांसफर पॉलिसी में बाहर के काफ़ी जजेस आए तो उन लोगों ने हमें यंग लॉयर्स को काफ़ी प्रमोट भी किया और बड़ा अच्छा माहौल हमारी हाई कोर्ट में था. तो हमारे एक जज साहब इलाहाबाद से ट्रांसफर होकर के आए थे. उनको भी उर्दू का शेर व शायरी का बहुत शौक था. तो एक दिन एक वकील साहब ने बेल मैटर आर्गू किया. जज साहब को कन्विंस नहीं हुए तो उन्होंने उसको डिसमिस कर दिया. तो लॉयर ने बड़े जोर से फाइल को पटका और कोर्ट से बाहर निकलने लगे. तो गेट के जब आसपास पहुंचे तो जज साहब ने उनको बोला, "जनाब एक बार रुकिए, एक बार रुकिए." तो वकील साहब ने सोचा शायद मेरे मैटर को दोबारा से रिकंसिडर कर रहे हैं. तो वापस आए और आ गए. तो उनको पास में बुला लिया. तो उनको बोला, "देखिए, इस अंजुमन में आपको आना है बार बार, दीवारों दर को गौर से पहचान लीजिए." ये कह के वापस भेज दिया. So that was the kind of humor we have seen as young lawyers in our court. I also recollect when probably I was just 3 or 4 months old practice in the High Court. One lawyer who had an Air Force background and was a very dedicated lawyer, he argued one matter very passionately, very passionately, but he couldn't convince the bench. Eventually then he said, "My lord, probably there is something wrong with my communication." The judge said, "No, it's not communication alone. There is a problem in transmission also." But the most hilarious instance which I could, and ये तुषार भाई इसलिए बता रहा हूँ, आपका 3rd वॉल्यूम तैयार हो जाएगा इसमें. There was British judge Lord Leach. He was holding court in Madras High Court. In the middle of the counsel, passionately making submissions, unfortunately a donkey brayed. Leach was very brutal. He was very nasty to the lawyers. He said, "Gentlemen, one at a time." The lawyer was also equally smart. He also waited for his turn. But meanwhile, the arguments over, Justice Leach started dictating the judgment. The donkey brayed again. The counsel then remarked, he said, "Can my lord repeat the words, since it was echoing and was not clear?" So Tushar bhai, for your 3rd book, you can gaze towards our own judicial system, which I am sure is feeling left out of the limelight. And believe you me, there is no dearth of comical tales from our own region. In fact, I am certain we have enough material in Delhi itself to fill a library. Of course, I would be more than happy to contribute. Naturally, I would be less tight-lipped post-retirement. I think omitting the Indian bench from his razor-sharp volumes was not simply an editorial discretion, but it was actually his heightened survival instinct. Tushar bhai knows that if he wrote about our quacks, his next mentioning in court number 1 would have been outrightly rejected, and that too without any review petition. Ladies and gentlemen, what elevates this current collection beyond a mere string of comical incidents is the artistry with which they are woven into an engaging narrative. Consider the vast scale of what Tushar has captured in writing. Everything from dress code disasters to AI hallucinations in judgments and pleadings. He has even covered drunk and disorderly conduct, which in all fairness is usually just called Saturday night for the bar here. The beauty of these books lies not only in their comic timing, but also in the sheer depth of research that went behind all their jest. Tushar Bhai has raided law libraries, shifted through cold old case files, and dug out obscure trial records that read more like sitcom scripts than somber documents. He presents baffled witnesses, judges with a flair for the dramatic, and lawyers caught in the crossfire of their own hysterical missteps. The courtroom is where theater meets law, and everyone has a starring role. The learned solicitor paints a picture where there are hardly any innocent extras. He joshes the bench and the bar, both of whom are stuck in a delightful dance of mutual absurdity. Judges, with their stern faces and occasional impatience, and lawyers with their flourishes and periodic theatrics, all contribute to the grand spectacle of justice. Mr. Mehta, thank you for reminding us that the law is not just about orders and objections. It is also about the human comedy that happens in between. These books are a celebration of statutes twirling with style and of precedents dancing right into punchlines. Far from being just witty stories, these are revelations about how the humanity of the legal process occasionally peeks through its marble's facade. Tushar Bhai is not content with simply tossing jokes at us. He masterfully serves every anecdote as both amusement and illumination. He reminds us gently that the law, for all its seriousness, is still a profoundly human enterprise. At the end of the day, behind every statute and every ruling are just people with their own quirks, their own flaws, but also occasional bursts of comic brilliance. Both these books have achieved something remarkable. They make you appreciate the law more deeply by laughing at it. Humor here is not mockery, but education. By finding the comedy in the courtroom, Tushar Bhai revealed that beating heart beneath the robes and the formalities. In a world that often sees law as intimidating or impenetrable, learned solicitor has thrown open the doors, invited us in, and give us permission to chuckle heartily at its absurdities. These books are much a triumph of clever storytelling as they are of the law's unexpected capacity for comedy. It will leave bookworms happier, wiser, and perhaps secretly wishing that all legal briefs come with a punchline or two. Tushar's pen is as sharp as it is warm, and each page reminds readers that justice may be blind. That justice may be blind, but she has an excellent sense of humor, possibly even a fondness for slapsticks. May he continue to amuse, enlighten, and entertain us with his inimitable wit in many more volumes to come. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
I thank the Honorable Chief Justice of India for delivering his presidential address. We are indeed grateful to my Lord. Before I request Ms. Astha Mehta to deliver the vote of thanks for the day, the learned author and host for the evening would like to make a special request to the guests.
Friends, conventionally and traditionally, it is not proper to speak after the president has spoken, but I have kept one request. at the end. But before I make that request, there are two real stories which I would like to share and then make one request. Once George Bernard Shaw presented a book to his friends with writing to Mr. So-and-so with best compliments. After 15 days, when he was on his evening walk, he found it at the Raddiwala, so he purchased the book and sent it back to the same person, saying to Mr. So-and-so with renewed compliments. Friends, I come from Gujarat, and in Gujarat we are basically businessmen, and literature has very little to do with our interest. Once, at one Raddiwala, someone who was genuinely interested in literature found a book of good poetry written by an eminent poet. He said, "What is the price of this book?" The Raddiwala said, "It's 25. He said, "Do you know there is an autograph of the author inside?" So Raddiwala looked at it, said, "All right, then give 15. If it's something is written inside that, the prices would low." Friends, there is a very humble request. Please accept with my love while leaving this auditorium, and after, of course, having something to eat waiting for you, please leave with my books, which is with my love and with my compliments. Thank you so much.
It is indeed an honor and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on an occasion like this. We are all grateful to the Honorable Chief Justice of India, who has spared his valuable time and has agreed to preside over this function. We are indeed grateful to our Honorable Home Minister, Shri Amit Bhai Shah, for having agreed and graced the occasion despite his pressing schedule. We are grateful to Shri R. Venkat Ramani ji, Learned Attorney General for India, for having consented to be a part of this function. We are privileged to have the presence of the Honorable Judges of the Supreme Court, Honorable Chief Justices, and Honorable Judges of the High Courts. Our special gratitude for the Honorable Judges of the Supreme Court of Bhutan and Chief Justice of the High Court of Bhutan, who graciously agreed to be a part of this function, making the event more memorable. We are grateful to all the Honorable Judges who have spared their valuable time on this Sunday evening, despite the pressing list on Monday. We are also grateful to all the learned senior advocates and lawyers present today for being a family to support the unveiling of these books. We are especially grateful to Srimati Sonalben Shah for being with us as a member of our family. Our sincere gratitude to the members of the print and the electronic media for having spared their valuable time. As a reminder, we would request the honorable guest to accept our loving gesture to carry the bag containing both the books unveiled today. May I now request the guests to proceed for high tea.